Upon seeing the title of this presentation, one may wonder how could there ever be any gift associated with having Lyme disease? What could possibly be perceived as positive about this dreadful condition? Or possibly, what could ever be learned from enduring such a horrific experience? These would all be reasonable questions. The fact is, behind the journey through the labyrinth are many lessons learned along the way. The many difficulties, obstacles, and challenges encountered are not so much at first character building as character destroying, as issues with identity, personality, and character are transformed. Twisted, torn, and shredded, who we once were seem to no longer exist. A pale shadow or an empty shell of what we once were is all that remains. The truth is that these changes are very disturbing to the one going through it, as all sense of identity and security slip away, leaving us stranded in an uncertain new reality that is stark and foreboding. Stripped of our health and often wealth, the ground we once held as thriving individuals is shaken to the core, and we wobble around wondering who we are and in fear of what we may become. The realm of well-being seems far away across a stormy ocean that somehow we must cross in a life raft. The perilous journey is filled with doubt, uncertainty, and fear that would challenge anyone even in good health, to say nothing of being stranded without reason or will to continue. The enormous difficulties presented are a matter of life and death, and only those afflicted know the true depth of this reality. Why some succumb to this disease where others do not is a question that each individual may contemplate within, as in the quiet stillness of meditation, these answers are revealed. In my case, this was not an option, for there were long periods of silence and the inability to do anything but stare at the ceiling for hours, days, weeks, months, even years. An agonizing form of crippling paralysis gave little choice but to take refuge within, almost as a last and final option. It was like crossing a channel of misery to find solace and comfort on the other side. I would cross the river, crawl up on the bank in the shade, away from the pain and misery that comprised daily existence, and with eyes closed in the stillness, the last refuge of comfort would come, where the soul could dwell in peace. Upon discovering this refuge, while waiting the long many months during recovery, it seemed almost by accident. But in returning there deliberately many times, I learned that there was a reason I had been afflicted, and this was not a random act of discord. I also learned many other secrets about myself and the disease that appeared to take away everything I once believed was so important. It disclosed many false beliefs about money, character, and the values we've been taught since birth to believe are true. These inner truths began to be revealed in greater detail and frequency. It was the one thing I could look forward to. While the antibiotics were doing their job to repair and restore the physical body, in parallel, I began to build the spiritual side of my being. In retrospect, I can say assuredly that recovery did not really begin until this was recognized. Over the many months of virtual inactivity during treatment, so much time was spent in the realm of meditation that gradually I remained there for longer and longer periods. Eventually, I acknowledged I was building a new life on the banks of that river, on the other side of life. Many things were revealed during this process. Why I got sick, why I lost everything along the way, why the former identity was eventually destroyed and eradicated. I began to realize that my life was being guided by a presence that I did not yet fully understand. It is easy to think that this presence is a cruel and unfeeling spirit, but in the end, this is not the case. It is a merciful and forgiving spirit, and it was only by the agony and misery of the experience I was able to finally understand what it was about myself that needed to be changed. A form of spiritual death, the false self-ego was dissolved, permitting the spiritual rebirth of a new form or identity based upon a higher self. In this new form, I noticed that the old character traits involving the false self-ego were no longer there. I was purged of anger, hate, self-loathing, greed, arrogance. Not perfect, but given a new chance to develop the traits of compassion, love, generosity, charity, and forgiveness. These are the gifts of Lyme, if you can come to recognize, acknowledge, and accept them. Of course, it doesn't take the ordeal of Lyme specifically to recognize these, but in my case, this was the vehicle to spiritual evolution, and there are many such vehicles available that an aspirant may find themselves in. When I look back now, over the last 5 years free of the ravages of Lyme, I see the many great blessings that have occurred as a result of it. These were very difficult to recognize at first, and takes an act of will to explore them, but they are there. They await anyone who has the impulse to understand, the impulse to know, and the impulse to receive. Finding the sanctuary that resides within, visiting that sanctuary often, and becoming familiar with those surroundings, one discovers the temple of the soul. The comfort and inner peace that comes from understanding the true eternal nature of our being as humans reveals a whole new world to its discoverer. The technique of meditation is the key to the doorway of that temple, which was impressed upon me by the dreadful ordeal of Lyme. And yet the truth of the matter is this: it was Lyme that granted me the greatest gift, the ordeal of the sanctuary.